Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media. Dear Business Coach pages and groups. Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Well, great. Well, and good morning, good afternoon, John Dwyer. Welcome to the Dear Business Coach podcast. How are you today?
Very, very good. And thank you for the invitation to be on your podcast.
So, yes, and I actually want to go ahead and say right up front, the website that we'll be referring to that I'll be talking about with you is the instituteofwow.com. And so I want to actually pull a couple of things from there over the course of the interview. So if you hear verbiage, you make sure that I'm saying your marketing message the right way, but I am using your website as a resource here. And it's actually a really exciting website. You have a rich history, and I got to learn a little bit about you, and we talked for the first time around marketing, but I didn't know when I first talked to you some of the stories behind your experiences. And now that I read more in print and what's available digitally in print, if you will, is that your marketing experience is really built on a just what seems like a little bit of a movie roller coaster. You just having these experiences with people and the businesses that they are building. So how did you get into marketing, and would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Elizabeth. My name is John Dwyer, and I normally get JD. I don't know why, but since I was a child, the initials JD for John Dwyer just roll off the tongue. I get lots of other names, but we won't we won't go into that. But yeah, look, I guess I kicked it off many thousands of years ago. I was at school. I was probably 15 or 16 years of age, and the school used to hold once a year a fete, in other words, a fair, okay? And what would happen is that they'd always ask the students who were around about that age if they could come up with some ideas of how to make more money at the school fair. And this idiot who you're talking to, Elizabeth, decided that we'd create a haunted house in the multi-car garage in the school. And as it turned out, when the fair came along, the most popular and the biggest fundraiser for that particular fete was the ghost house that we built inside this big, multi-car garage. And all it was that 15 or 16 years of age, we just wanted the girls to come through the horror house and scare them with our torches. That's pretty much what it was. I think we had some face masks on. It was pretty rudimentary, but it beat all of the other things in the fair where people were guessing the age or guessing the weight of someone, or they were throwing their coin onto the plate and trying to win money. And I thought, gee, this is this wow factor that we came up with in terms of a haunted house in the school fete. That's got some merit. And then I think I got the bug then to go into the advertising marketing world, because I realised that at the end of the day, you could make a big difference if you just had a wow. And of course, it leads me to the name of my business these days. It's pretty easy to know what we do. It's called the Institute of Wow. So it's all about creating a wow factor to sell your products or services.
Are you a LinkedIn user? If you are, you can join me for LinkedIn Live Audio with Elizabeth every week, usually on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will have a LinkedIn Live Audio where we talk about podcasting for executives who speak and podcasting for team leaders who speak. These are the themes that are currently running. If that sounds like something you're interested, visit me, Elizabeth Walker at Work, on my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so I like the idea of being able to provide a wow factor. And one thing that I uh, think about sometimes in terms of communicating with the customer on the other end in a sales experience or marketing experience sometimes is, can I tell when that person's interested and why? more importantly, why do they say yes when they decide to say yes? And so I have spent time thinking about that in my career in sales a long time ago, where I would think, why did that person that I just talked to say yes? What is it that actually triggered that yes? And sometimes you can point to it, sometimes you may not know, and sometimes we don't have the time or the leadership to have the space to ask that question. um and so the reason I'm telling you this is to get kind of an idea of what is it that you can identify as a wow factor. So you shared a story from when you were a teenager, and then I heard you say that you realized that you and your team, your buddies presented a wow factor and something worked there. Can you tell, did you know what that wow factor was when that happened for you at the haunted house, or did you have to kind of identify those markers for yourself later?
I don't think at 15 or 16 I really knew what we were doing. I don't think we had a clue. We just wanted to scare the girls in a dark, garage. But look, years later, when I'd left school and I got into college and did the advertising degree in college, I then started to realise that really the worst form of marketing in the world is price discounting, and yet
Mm.
it's form of marketing that 97% of businesses worldwide use. When they want to clear the warehouse, or if they want to create cash flow, the first thing they do is drop their pants, and and therefore, if you're going to go down the price discounting path, then of course you're going to leave yourself open to being beaten in 5 minutes by the guy down the road. And so,
Yeah.
from that point onwards, once I got involved in businesses in my 20s, I realized that what you could do to distinguish yourself from your competitor, you don't need to necessarily do this if you're Coca-Cola or if you're Nike or if you're Kellogg's, but if you're a regular small business owner and you think you're going to beat the big 40-ton gorilla on price, for example, if you're a corner store and you're sitting opposite Costco and you think you're going to beat Costco on price, well, you're on drugs. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Right, right.
Um, and so you've got to come up with a wow factor. Now, whether that's a Happy Meal toy where you give away a free reward if they buy your product, or whether it's the chance to win, $50,000 that you get from, Lloyd's Insurance, because you don't have to come up with the money these days. You can get all that stuff insured. Or whether it's movie passes or dining vouchers, whatever you come up with, the whole idea of this wow factor marketing is that if you are in an industry whereby it's, you've got the same product pretty much as everyone else, your solar panel looks the same as the guy down the road, then the best way for you to actually attract attention is to create a wow factor that's not easily duplicable by him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And can I ask for your help as a marketing expert to help me craft that? Can you analyze me from the outside, or how do I find what that wow factor is for me?
Yeah, great question, Elizabeth. Look, most people who are running a small to medium-sized business are great technicians. So they're a good lawnmower, or they're a good dentist, or they're a good retailer, or they're a good physiotherapist. But when they went and got their degree at college, whether it was last year or 20 years ago, no one at college ever taught them how to get a customer. We have clients coming on board all the time. We had a dental practice come on board last week. He's doing 5 point something million dollars. So he's not altogether a small business, but he needs more
Mm-hmm.
patience. He needs more patience with crooked teeth. And he said to me, look, I asked him, when you went through dental school all those years ago, did they ever teach you how to get a customer? He said, no. He said, I'm pretty good at dentistry, but I have no clue how to get a customer. And the reason I bring that up is because whoever's watching or listening this, if they're a small business owner, they're thinking, look, I'm not real flash at marketing. Don't feel so bad about it. Hardly anyone is. It's crazy that to me, it's as simple as if there's two butcher shops opposite each other in the main street of a little town. The butcher who holds a sausage sizzle outside his shop around about 2:30 to 3:30 of an afternoon when mum's picking up the kids from school, that butcher is going to have pester power with all the children saying, Mum, we've got to call off at that butcher shop. He's going to blitz the butcher across the road who price discounts. And so
Mm-hmm.
really don't feel too bad about it. But what happens in our instance is that most of these business owners who come along and knock on our door, They just don't have skills in marketing, and yeah, we just do it for them.
Well, sometimes I laugh about the marketing textbook that I had in college. I have a business degree, just regular old plain business degree from a 4-year school, the marketing class was fine, but the textbook, to go back and look at it, what is ridiculous. I mean, we were just reading definitions about the difference between .com and .net, kind of. And I'd say that in the to poke fun at it a little bit, but that is what it kind of felt like. And I just I think, wow, okay, because I didn't go into marketing. I ended up having a concentration in finance, and the thing about a business degree is you do get a good taste of all of those different fields. But I certainly didn't feel like I had any handle on what you're actually supposed to do in marketing, unless I wanted to actually, I don't know, maybe pursue a master's degree or something in terms of actually finding out what are the nuts and bolts of creating this marketing experience for somebody. Now, it's interesting that you said a dentist, because and that you said that he admitted to you that he doesn't really know the first thing about acquiring a customer or attracting a customer. And so, um, do I need to know, I guess, the basics? You just answered the question that not everybody knows marketing. So I can come to you and ask for help if I've never done marketing before, or if I don't know marketing. Um, but I mean, can I really start from the beginning? If I'm asking for your help, do I have to have an established some kind of marketing? Should I have tried some kind of marketing before asking for your assistance developing a wow?
That normally happens, Elizabeth. Somebody will see my stuff on a podcast or a webinar, or if you're doing a seminar, and I freely give out lots and lots of ideas, as I'm more than happy to do today. In fact, I'll give you one in a minute that I can't guarantee that it will double every business's turnover, because I don't know who's wearing an ankle bracelet, but and yeah, a lot of it depends on the product and service, obviously. But I'll give you a Facebook contest idea in a moment that'll blow people's heads. What generally happens is that they'll see some of the stuff that I'll be rolling out with case studies, and they do what so many people do. They think, I'll grab that idea and go home and do it myself. And they have all the right intentions. And I'm, with my blessing, by the way, I'm more than happy for them to grab these ideas and go home and do it themselves. But generally happens is that they give it to their son-in-law, or they give it to their daughter-in-law, who's just come out of college, and and they screw it up. and then and then they knock on the door. And the one I have to give you, which is it's so simple. We call it the Facebook contest formula. And I'll use the dentist as an example, okay? And all that we tell people to do is that instead of giving away a prize on Facebook, give away your product or service as the prize on Facebook. And that
Hmm.
means whoever enters your contest to win your product or prize is obviously interested in your product or service, okay? And the dentistry one is a classic one. This particular dentist that we had a little while ago, he said, look, I want to sell Invisalign braces, which are the invisible braces that people use on their teeth. Nobody wants the metal in the mouth anymore. And they're around about $5,000. Doesn't cost him $5,000, but that's what they charge. So we ran a contest on Facebook, and we directed it towards parents. And we just said, look, if your children have, crooked teeth, we didn't quite use that language, but if your children's got crooked teeth, you might like to win this invisible braces that's worth $5,000. He got 904 entries in the first week. He was only spending $20 a day, $20 a day on Facebook. So 7 times $20. In the first week, he spent $140. He got 904 entries into the contest to win braces. The only parents who entered that contest are parents with children with crooked teeth. He's just got the hottest leads that he could ever hope in his lifetime, because he gives one away, but he's got 903 parents that he can follow up and say, look, you didn't win my invisible braces, but we have a special deal on this month that if you get them, you get a free Happy Meal toy, or whatever the reward might be. And they're at a special price. That's the way to attract what we call avalanche leads.
Hmm. Well, that is stellar. I'm marking my timestamp here on the episode. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. That is a really good, that is a really good, I'm thinking about what I could do in that format. Well, so okay, so I have actually a list of brands and names and uh organizations that you've impressively worked with. And how did you get started with some of these giant names, and do you have some favorites?
Yeah, look, yeah, pretty much. I've been a consultant for the likes of, and I'm going to show off here, so therefore I'll roll through a few of them: McDonald's and KFC and 7-Eleven, and Rupert Murdoch's newspapers, which is known as Fox these days. It was known as News Corporation beforehand. And I would be called in, how I got in contact with them was I, I subscribe to the persistence beats intelligence rule. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I have to because my wife keeps on telling me I'm not that intelligent, so I've got to be persistent. Um, and so, yeah, look, I'm a persistent bugger. And so if I came up with an idea for one of these big companies, I would contact their ad agency or I would contact them direct and say, look, this is an idea that I've got for your business. Okay. And yeah, it's just a matter of door knocking. And I had my name out there providing these sorts of things for these businesses. Like if you do a couple of promotions for McDonald's, Happy Meals toy style promotions, not the Happy Meal toy, but that sort of thing. It's not long before KFC is knocking on your door or Pizza Hut, and that's the way it works. Everybody wants a good idea, and if they see that the good idea is coming from one source, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to hit someone knocking on your door. And what I found throughout all of these things was that to me, and I guess it's an X factor, to me, it came reasonably easy. I would come up with a wow factor for these businesses. For example, Rupert Murdoch's newspapers. They wanted to sell more newspapers. They could see that the digital world was around the corner. This was back around about the 2000 mark. And so therefore I said to them, look, if you want to do that, then why don't you actually, have a value add when people buy the newspaper? And so therefore we would run scratch bingo contests whereby you would get the scratch bingo card out of the Sunday paper, and then you would have to buy the daily paper every day for the next 3 weeks to get the numbers to scratch out. And of course, we programmed it so that by the first week, you scratched out three of the four symbols to win $100,000. You scratched out three of the four symbols to win $10,000. You scratched out three of the four symbols to win a motor car, and so forth. And so, therefore,
Mm.
we teach people because of the design of the promotion so that they were hooked on buying that paper every single day for the 3 or 4 weeks. Now, what would happen is Rupert Murdoch's circulation for that paper would go up, and then he would charge the advertisers more money, and he'd ask me to do that again and again and again. Okay. And yeah, that's the thing is that most of these businesses that are big businesses have tested what we call direct response marketing, because that's what that is. But most of the small businesses have never ever tested any direct response marketing. They think that brand building is important, and it is, but most small businesses cannot sponsor the Olympics and they can't afford to put their ad on the side of a bus. So what we say to them is that, listen, wake up and use direct response marketing, which you can do tomorrow on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah. Well, it sounds kind of incredible. It sounds kind of too good to be true. I have played with Facebook ads before, and I have to say like the reward, I like to use the term reward schedule as far as me interacting with the ads. It's fast turnaround. I can see right away that people are clicking on things. Am I getting the traffic? It's an easy interface in terms of that as an individual user, or if your team, you all can look at the same data together, and that's helpful. But it does seem difficult to just pop in and add, but I guess that's just going to work. That sounds great. Like the way that you described it, of course, is success story after success story. Now I can tell based on some of the structure of your offers, that you have a craft for this and that it's a good offer. And so, for example, like the Invisalign offer you just gave, yes, that's a fantastic offer and it's a big deal, is that's a huge value. So now something that you just said as far as adding value, what was interesting about what you just said there to me about the newspapers is that, okay, you get a bingo card and you get a scratch off card. All right, awesome. That in and of itself is is valuable, it's a gift, it's tangible, it's exciting, and the potential of a future reward. Now, also the attention, right? The reward of that person being excited to visit the newspaper the next time and the next day and the next day. It is, that person is feeling a reward for getting the chance just to even look at the publication. So this is fascinating that I not only am excited about the first gift, I'm excited about the potential to give you my attention over and over again afterwards. And so that is sounds like that's what I mean by too good to be true. So if I go to my Facebook ads right now and try to come up with an offer as an individual or a small business, you know what I don't do is test, because it seems like too much work and too much time, and I don't want to spend the time testing. And so what you're saying is it is worth my time to take a look at these direct response formulations.
Oh yes, look, I think the reason that Facebook doesn't work for a lot of people is because they don't have staying power,
Mm,
because they think that they're going to switch it on today, and all of a sudden the money tree grows, and sometimes that happens
okay.
if you get it right. But Zuckerberg, being the cheeky so and so that he is, yeah, that Facebook and Instagram and all those platforms have very sneaky algorithms. And if you're a B2B business, it is harder. In other words, if you're selling your services to a business owner, then you will pay more for the lead. So you might be paying 30 or 40 or 50 or $100 a lead to attract a business. Whereas if you're a B2C business, so you're selling to just consumers, then the lead cost is considerably cheaper. And that's why this Facebook contest formula works so well. And by the way, you don't have to buy anything off me, but if you want to know how to run the Facebook contest formula, just go to fbcontestformula.com and you'll see how to run it. Okay. FB,
Oh.
FB for Facebook, obviously. So fbcontestformula.com. And it's all there with case studies of ones that, and you can just do it yourself. But what we find is that with the social media is that you should have always about two or three or four reserve advertisements sitting on the reserve bench. Because if your first one doesn't fire, and you'll know within 2 or 3 days if it has, then you just simply bring number two on number three. So we will always be conscious that if our first ad for a client doesn't fire, we've got two or three already sitting on the reserve bench. And if it does fire, then we realize that because of the nature of that particular platform, Facebook or Instagram, we're going to suffer from what's called ad fatigue. So if, for example, I'm a hair salon and I'm in a particular small town, and I tell Facebook only to gear up and target, let's say, women over a certain age in that particular geographic region, then if I only have one ad and I'm spending $50 a day, there's only so many women in that age group that are within that particular region. It's a bit like telling someone the same joke over and over and over and over. They're not going to laugh by about the 10th time. So if they're seeing your ad all the time, and because of retargeting, there's a pretty good chance that they are, then it will get to a stage whereby your cost per lead will go up. And so the moment that that starts to happen, guess what you do? You go to the reserve bench and you bring out advertisement number two, because you're suffering from ad fatigue. And that means a small market is seeing your ad too often. They've just dropped off their interest. And so therefore you can see your cost per lead is going up. That's when you bring in your second ad.
Good point. Yes. No, I don't want my viewers to be tired of me. That is a terrible idea. That is a terrible thought.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
How am I doing on time? I could ask you even more questions about data and the like. Um, let's see. What's your okay, I do want to squeeze in here thing. You mentioned McDonald's, and the thought that went through my head is you're right, JD. I don't want to buy, and I shouldn't probably buy a spot on a billboard or a major television commercial spot. So direct response marketing sounds like a good option for me, a lucrative option, a tested option, and you also said that they also are still interested in that. So we have these big guys, big people that are these big brands that are can buy all the billboards they want and are still coming to you because they want help from you with a direct response. And so what is it that they know that we don't that we don't know about putting this to use?
Oh, look, I mean, the big guys have got the budget, and so therefore they can do both brand building and direct response. So McDonald's will be out there sponsoring the Olympics, and they'll have their logo on the back of gridiron players and so forth, and then they still will direct response market, and direct response market are things like their Monopoly contest and the Happy Meal toys and so forth. If you're a small business, then you don't quite have that luxury. So if you go to most advertising agencies, they will tell you that what you need to do is get people to fall in love with your brand so that they will
Mhm.
taste your product. We flip that on its head. We say, look, we'll show you how to get them to taste your product so they'll fall in love with your brand. And our version is basically if it's a seafood shop in the main street, then we would suggest that they would have hostesses outside at lunchtime and dinner time handing out calamari samples. Because if you tasted that calamari sample, there's a good chance you'll go into the fish shop and buy the very expensive barramundi. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
and that's really what it is. It's flipping the traditional model of brand building on its head and saying, look, you don't have enough money to build a brand. Do everything you possibly can to enhance your brand. But if you're a hairdressing salon or you're a solar dealer and you're, a 1 or 2 or 5 man band, you're not going to be able to do it with the big guys. So what you should do is this, what we call direct response marketing. And basically it's problem solution marketing. So when people say to me, look, what are the components of direct response marketing? Number one is highlight their problem. Number two is aggravate their problem. Number three is give them the solution. Number four is provide proof, as in testimonials. And number five is a strong CTA, what we call call to action. So if it was a weight loss company, give them the problem. You would say to them, look, are you not feeling good about yourself because you're a bit overweight? You highlight or aggravate the problem. You say, look, summer's just around the corner. Don't you want to look good in your swimsuit? Then you provide the solution, and that is go on my weight loss program and you look like a supermodel in 4 weeks. And then number four, testimonials, which is proof, people who have used your weight loss program and they now look like Miss World. And then number five, call to action. And that is, if you join our program before Friday, you will get whatever that reward might be. And if you follow that formula, it's pretty hard not to make money because you are doing something that 97% of other businesses are not doing.
Well, that's wild. I that because these are the types of advice points that we hear if we're looking for coaching, and yet why it's not tried and true. So why not take advantage of that?
And you look at, if you want to dumb it down, it's 2 words: problem, solution. So if you're
Yeah.
doing any advertising, if you want to really make money, give them their problem and then provide, your product or your service as the solution. It could be if it's lawn mowing, are you living on acreage and you just don't have time to, or you haven't got the resources to be able to mow your lawn? Well, guess what? I can do it for you. And, this month it's only $99 or whatever it might be. I mean, the skin repair people, they do it so well. All of the people with the skin creams and so forth, they'll say, look,
Mm.
you're not looking, are you looking a little bit down? Are you looking tired? Use my, rub my cream into your face 3 times a day and you'll say goodbye to all the wrinkles. So they do it very well. But most people don't, because most people just jump in and price discount. And I'll give you the classic. If people say to me, well, what is the number one Happy Meal toy in the world? And we sort of know what that is without being too much of a show off. It's a vacation, okay? And you might say, well, we can't afford to give people a vacation when they buy a refrigerator or they use our lawn mowing services. What happened is that some years ago, I did a campaign for a bank down under, and we did this. We just said, get a home loan from us and you get a free vacation. It went absolutely crazy. And 3 or 4 years into it, I flew backwards and forwards to America from Australia because we got Jerry Seinfeld to do the ads. Okay, now I know I'm name dropping and not everyone can get Seinfeld to do the ads, but yeah, we scored it. I was persistent and I got him to say yes. So Jerry Seinfeld came on TV down under and said, get a home loan from this particular bank and you get a free vacation. And because you had Seinfeld, doing my ads, then I got contacted just before COVID by a company who said, look, we've got access to unsold hotel rooms right around America and around the world. And basically the hotels are happy to give us those rooms for free. outside of school vacation periods because they're running at 30% vacancy, and they figure if they fill those rooms, then those people might spend money on food and beverage. So now what we
Hmm.
do is we offer businesses the opportunity to give away a vacation to Orlando, Las Vegas, San Diego, right around America and right around Europe, right around the world. And they can say, look, buy my product or service and I will give you a free vacation. And that vacation is 3 to 7 nights. It's worth about $1,000. And we give them the vacation vouchers for $50. So that's why the Happy Meal toy works. McDonald's makes that toy for 20 cents, but it looks like it's worth $5. So when you buy a Happy Meal, you think you're getting a $5 gift. In this instance, the beauty of this holiday voucher or vacation voucher is that when you give it to someone, they see it being worth $1,000, but it's cost you 50.
Yes. Now, I that's really an exciting offer, and it doesn't seem like I'm using this phrase again, this does not seem like it's too good to be true. I like the way that you structured the offer there with the bank, because of course they would, I'm thinking about financially. I've the Actually, let me start over there for a second. I've been offered a free vacation before, right, in exchange for like a sweepstakes entry or something that doesn't it's not tangible at all. And so when I hear it as an offer from a bank, a trusted source, and it's not like I'm taking a risky freebie because it's from the institution that I just established a home loan with. So of course I'm going to listen when the bank that I just gave my home loan to, it's going to tell me that I can have a free vacation. That is a whole different offer. And how many times have I been disappointed before where I think, oh, sign up for this thing and there's a potential of a free vacation. And then it just kind of seems like a scam. But your offer is satisfying this deep desire that I've wanted for a long time to make that offer real. So come
Hmm.
on, somebody's giving me a free vacation.
Well, the scammy thing, and because, I'm a baby boomer, so I've been around since the 1800s, and I've seen every travel scam there is. I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. When these guys contacted me, I just said to them, look, it sounds too good to be true. And they said, yeah, we know it is. I said, look, is there any timeshare presentations that people need to sit through? Because I would have ran the other way. And they said, no, they said no. And all that we tell businesses to do is that when they actually, have a promotion whereby they say, buy my product or service and we'll give you a 3 night vacation in Vegas or Orlando or, San Diego, wherever it might be, is just tell them the reason why. We call it reason why advertising. And you just, you say, look, the reason why we can do this for you is because we're partnered with a travel company that gets access to unsold rooms outside of Christmas and Easter and school vacations. And the moment you say that to them, then of course the consumer goes, right. And you say, look, there are no timeshare presentations. All it is that the hotels are giving up rooms that would have otherwise been empty in the hope that you're going to spend money on room service and at the cafes and restaurants. So the moment you actually give the reason why, skepticism goes out the window.
Yes, genius. That is right. That is exactly right. So, do you have time to tell me about how you got Jerry Seinfeld to do commercials for you?
I'll make it very quick.
Okay.
It was persistence versus intelligence. That's all it was. Is that these guys get offered, millions and millions of dollars by people every day of the week, and because they've got more money than God, they can knock back most of these things. And what happened is that we did a survey. The Greater Building Society, this particular bank is called Down Under, and we did a survey of who in their membership and outside of their membership did they think would be a good endorser of their product. And we'd created a pretty cheeky brand. And they're up against the Wells Fargo banks in Australia who are very up, sort of very, what would I say, very uppity. Okay. So therefore those
Mhm.
brands, they would never think about doing something like this. Whereas this brand is a smaller player, still the 250th biggest business in Australia, by the way, but it wasn't the Wells Fargo. So we said to them, look, we built a cheeky brand, and then 2 or 3 years into the get a home loan, get a free vacation, we said, what are we going to do to get to the next level? And I said, well, what about a spokesperson? And so we put out a survey and asked the members and non-members, who did they think would be a cheeky spokesperson for that business? And I was hoping it was going to be an Australian sportsman, like a football player or something like that was going to be easy to get. And I
Mhm.
I dug my own grave. Robin Williams came first, Jerry Seinfeld came second, Jim Carrey came third. So I
Nice.
realized I was a complete idiot for coming up with this idea. And once I had made my bed, I had to sleep in it. So therefore, this was a dozen years ago. So it was before Robin Williams passed away, unfortunately. But Robin Williams was busy and he just couldn't do it. And so therefore, we went for Seinfeld. And I spent 3 or 4 months just annoying the daylights out of his management. His manager was a guy called George Shapiro, who operated out of an office in Beverly Hills, and he would get an email once every once every 3 or 4 days from me, and
Okay.
he rang me and he just said, "Listen, what would you like me to put to Jerry?" I said, "Look, I'd just like him to sort of come on TV down under and social media and just be him." And so he said, "But specifically, what do you want him to do?" I said, "I basically want him to take the Mickey out of the big banks because they just treat you like a number, and tell people to come across to the building society where they'll be treated personally and they'll get a free vacation." And when Jerry said yes to it, I said, "Why did you do this? Because you've got so much money, you could easily say no." And he just said, "Look, I like the Aussie sense of humour. It's a bit cheeky." But he said the other reason was that I thought that if I didn't say yes, you'd never go away.
So it Oh, so okay. Now, and the Institute of Wow.com is where I can access you and get your resources too. So there's actually a lot of video, and I can read and watch about your experience with Seinfeld. And thank you for name dropping. By the way, the reason why I didn't ask you earlier is because I wanted to talk. I wanted it to be about you first,
Yeah.
and so I'm glad that we squeezed that in. But as a
Elizabeth,
sideline.
I've got to tell you, when I in the second year of the 3 years we did the Seinfeld thing, and I'd fly backwards and forwards to New York, and because basically we had to do it around in his backyard. I said to him, he didn't have a website. I said, "Jerry, you don't have a website. Can you imagine the
Mhm.
amount of caps and t-shirts you could sell?" He said, "Do I look like I need to sell any caps or t-shirts?" Right.
Oh,
And because of the moment that I scored him, I put him on my website everywhere. Of course, I've just milked the daylights out of it. And he said to me, "Anyway, why would I need a website, JD?" He said, "I've looked at yours. I'm on there more than you."
right. Oh my goodness. Well, JD, thank you so much for coming today. And I hope to talk to you again. So I'd like to invite you back at some point and you can tell me when.
Yeah, and look, just before I do go, if anyone's interested in that vacations thing, just go to vacationsincentive.com. Okay, so our American website is vacations plural, vacationsincentive.com, and you can see all the details about that vacation giveaway.
Nice. Well, we'll provide the link. All right. Well, thanks for coming to the Dear Business Coach podcast. And listeners, subscribe to email if you haven't already to get your exclusive magazine copy. And we'll talk to you next time. All right. Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.